What's good, YouTube? It's Justice, iusedtobepay, and today I'm back with another video. And real quick, make sure you leave a like, leave a subscribe. I'm trying to pay off this college tuition, so help a brother out. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about why there is no next Drake. Drake is the biggest superstar of rap in this generation, and what comes with that is always a whole bunch of conversations of who's the next Drake. People are always trying to find the next something when it comes to pretty much anything, but when you're one of the top A1 S-tier type of guys, that always is a conversation that surrounds you. Who's the next Drake? Who's the next Kanye? Who's the next Kendrick? It's always been a conversation, especially in rap, because rappers tend to not have the biggest shelf lives of like any other music genre, mostly because rappers tend to, have some legal troubles, or they tend to, pass away a lot of the times, but also because rap is generally a young man's game. It's typically ran by guys who are 16 to 24. If you're Drake, you get to run into your 30s to a certain extent, but for the most part, it's a young man's game. It's not something that's going to be ran by 40, 50, 60. Like, once you pass about 28, really, you're kind of considered an old head when you're a rapper. So once you reach that age, people start to ask questions of who's next. And people have asked this question with Drake, but we really don't have a definitive answer. Because when you look at some of the contemporaries of Drake, or people that have been around just as long as Drake, if you look at a guy like Kendrick, you have somebody like Baby Keem, who clearly Kendrick has, kind of taken, put under his wing. I mean, of course it's his cousin, but we've seen Baby Keem really start to mature, and Kendrick really trying to put him on. Like, we've seen that. When you look at somebody like J. Cole, he has JID, and you see he's signed to the label, or JID, however you want to say it. He's signed to the label. J. Cole's trying to put him on. He's, JID's doing crazy stuff right now. He's going crazy with all his music. You can see that there's some sort of mentorship program type thing going on there with J. Cole and JID and Kendrick and Baby Keem. And then even look at somebody like Kanye. People will say, oh, we have Travis Scott. And, Travis Scott has worked with Kanye in the past. He's worked with Kanye pretty much his entire career. They're good friends. They make similar-ish kinds of music. So people can look at him and say, okay, we have Kanye, but after Kanye, there's going to be Travis Scott. Obviously, he's not Kanye, but someone similar to him in the same veins. And we kind of have that for these bigger rappers. But with Drake, we don't really have anybody. People like to bring up a whole bunch of stuff. People were saying Tory Lanez at a point. People were saying maybe Lil Baby, but I don't really think that comparison really works out. People have even said Jack Harlow. And whenever I say that, people act like nobody was saying this. People were saying this like a year ago. Like, people were saying Jack Harlow was the next Drake. He's not, but Drake has had him around and stuff. But there's just no definitive answer of next Drake. There's nobody who everyone kind of points to. And even if we all end up being wrong, maybe JID doesn't end up being the next Cole. Maybe Keem doesn't end up being the next Kendrick. But even if we're wrong, there's no person that we can point to and be like, that's the guy that's under Drake's wing, that Drake's really going to try and put on, that Drake's really going to boost up, the guy that's really going to take his place. Like, that doesn't really exist for Drake. And that's because Drake is the next Drake. Now, Drake is pretty old for a rapper standard, at least. He's 36 years old. That's like almost pushing 40. That is ancient in rap. But I don't think Drake is done being the top guy, being the guy with all the spotlight, being the guy who's really at the forefront of rap. I don't think he's going to be done with that anytime soon. Because when you look at guys like Kendrick, J. Cole, and even Kanye to a certain extent, there's this sense that they all have of kind of like, okay, I can take a step back. I don't have to have my foot on everybody's neck at all moments. I don't have to be, the superstar and all the headlines. Like, I can just kind of chill. I'm doing my thing, and I can let other people eat. I don't have to be number one all the time. But I don't get that sense from Drake. Drake is the complete opposite of that. Drake is still pushing very hard. Drake is still dropping every year. Drake is putting his foot on people's neck. Drake is still intertwined with modern day pop culture and all these new things on the internet, all these new trends. Like, Drake is very much in the now, and he's very active in the now. He's not really taking a step back. Of course, I'm sure if you ask Kendrick, or if you ask Cole, if you ask Kanye, who's the best rapper alive right now, they'd probably say themselves. Who makes the best rap music? They'd probably say themselves, and they still have that level of like competitiveness, but they're not all the way active in the now like Drake is. Like, Drake is very much in tune with all these new trends. He was one of the first people to hit up Ice Spice when Munch blew up. He was, messing with Yeat when Yeat first started to blow up. He even just did the interview with the Bobby Altoff girl. Like, that's a very big sign of somebody who's still very much active in today's media, very much still trying to progress himself as not only a rapper, but a superstar. Especially that Bobby Altoff interview really, really sold it for me, because it's like, you just wouldn't see Kendrick taking that interview or J. Cole taking that interview or Kanye taking that interview, especially as early as it is in that girl's like run. Like she's just now gotten super, super popular. Like just now, like over the past couple weeks to a month. And Drake is it was like her fourth podcast episode. Like Drake is very much looking at what's trending on the internet and still putting himself in those situations, still inserting himself and being this active superstar. I could see Drake still being, the most popular rapper in the world or still being the number one guy in rap for like the next 5, maybe even 10 years. Like I really don't think Drake is ready to pass the torch. That's why we haven't really gotten like a definitive answer of somebody who is the next Drake. Sure, Drake has helped out guys along the way. He works with 21 Savage. He works with Lil Baby all the time. He works with Jack Harlow. But there's no one who Drake is really like, let me put some resources into this guy. There is no underling. There is no student. There is no like guy that Drake is really just putting himself into, because I don't think Drake's ready to be done. Now I do say this though. I do predict this. I think Drake's going to retire in like maybe a year, maybe like 6 months or something. Like I think he's going to retire relatively soon. But when I say retire, I mean retire. I think he's going to do like the Michael Jordan thing, retire maybe for like a year and then come back, or maybe a year and a half, 2 years, maybe even less than that. Like I do see Drake doing a big retirement thing and coming back, because doesn't that just sound like a Drake thing to do? But I really don't think Drake is ready to pass the torch yet. I really don't think he's in that mode in his career, because when you look at Kendrick, when you look at Kanye, when you look at J. Cole, they all feel like they're kind of complacent with other people taking bigger roles, taking their spot to a certain extent. Not necessarily taking over for them, but you don't get that feeling from Drake. It feels like Drake is still really hungry. Like, honestly, Drake is probably hungrier than 90% of rappers nowadays. I don't really know why. I don't know what Drake is really still trying to accomplish, because he's done everything. But I'm telling you guys, there is no next Drake, because Drake is the next Drake. In 5 years, Drake is going to evolve a little bit. He's not going to change everything. He's not going to sound like a whole new rapper, but he's going to keep evolving with the times. Drake is still going to be keeping up with all the trending stuff. He's going to be changing up. And I think he could be here for another decade as the number one rapper. I just don't think Drake is ready for that moment where he can step back and not be the biggest star in rap. I don't think that that's something that's really in the forefront of his mind in terms of like, this is what I'm about to do. I do think he might do a little mini retirement thing, but I don't think Drake is ready to pass the torch, and I don't think anyone's ready to take the torch from him, because oftentimes in like other sports, like if you look at like other sports, like music is a sport, but if you look at like sports and you look at like basketball, football, or whatever, when an old guy's not really ready to retire, they're not really willing to pass the torch, and they're not really willing to retire on their own, the sport will retire them for them. Like if you look at, somebody like, I don't know, like Paul Pierce at the end of his career, like he got retired by the sport. He didn't just get to retire. Or even if you look at like the UFC, which is even worse because they're actually fighting, the old, if they're not ready to go on and ride off into the sunset, they get brutalized by the young generation. So maybe Drake's not going to pass the torch. Maybe somebody's going to come and take it from Drake. But honestly, that's pretty hard to see as well. I don't really know anybody that's going to be able to just kind of take the number one spot from Drake. But I don't think there's a next Drake, at least not at the moment. At least not for the next couple of years, at least the next 5 years, because I think Drake is the next Drake. I think he's still evolving. I think he's still trying to be the number one guy, and I think he still wants to be the biggest superstar in rap every single day he wakes up. I don't think he's ready to kind of take a role in the backseat, take a step back, maybe be a label executive and try to put on these younger guys. I mean, he is a label executive, but you know what I mean by that. Like really take a role of like leadership and mentorship where he's not at the fore. I don't think he's ready for that. He's not ready to be in the background. So there is no next Drake, because Drake is the next Drake, and he's probably going to keep this thing going for at least another 5 years. At least another 5 years at the top. I'm not saying he has to quit music in 5 to 10 years, but he's going to be at the top number one guy for at least another 5 years, in my opinion. Maybe even 10. Who knows? I don't know. I just feel like Drake's not the type of guy to retire on his own, to really back out of the spotlight on his own. Somebody's going to have to take it from him. And I don't know who that's going to be, because I don't see any real candidates at the moment who can really take it from Drake, but somebody's going to have to take it from him, because I don't think he's really willing to give up that torch. But that's just my opinion. This is just a real quick video I wanted to make because I thought it was a pretty interesting topic. I've been seeing Drake on tour and stuff, and it just made me think, man, this dude's not ready to hang it up. This dude's not ready to give it to somebody else. He's not really ready to put somebody else on. He's still in me. I'm Drake. I'm trying to do my thing mode. I'm still trying to be the biggest superstar. He's still in that mode. But maybe I'm wrong. Leave a comment. Leave a subscribe. Leave a like. Tell me I'm an idiot if I don't know what I'm talking about. Drake's trying to put on Smiley. Smiley's the next Drake. Maybe I'm just dumb. But if you agree, also leave a comment. And if you made it this far, I'd greatly appreciate it. Please leave a like. Leave a subscribe. Again, I'm trying to pay off my college tuition, so help a brother out. But that's going to be the end of my video. Have a good day. Be safe. Be blessed. Peace.